teach you how to do something manually tonight, and then you can decide if you want to go home and put this in some kind of a computer program that you currently use or can make it work. I will tell you that I have some computer gurus in my life that have not figured out how to put this table in something as detailed as it needs to be, and so this might be one of those things we just have to resign ourselves to continue to do on paper, but it's not anything that's really time robber, but it's going to revolutionize your business. So I just want you to take a sheet of this and pass it around so that everybody has a page out of there. Emily, would you grab me a thing of water? I didn't want to get up while JoJo was doing it.
Thank you.
Make sure you say thank you.
Oh, that's right, for getting me that water. Did you thank your sister for doing that for you? Oh my gosh, she does that to us all the time. Anyway, so I just have to know, have you ever asked yourself the question, am I making enough money to stay in Mary Kay? Am I making enough money to stay here? Is it really worth the sacrifice in my life right now? Am I making enough of a financial gain that it's worth it? Have you ever asked yourself, what am I really making in a month? How much do I really make in a month? Do you even know? And have you ever asked yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? More importantly, have you ever been asked any of the following questions? So can you really make money in Mary Kay? Can you really make money in Mary Kay? Do people really make money in Mary Kay? So do you do well with your Mary Kay? And how many of you have ever had to take a really big gulp when you answered that question and felt like when you walked away you might have told a story?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, my business is doing great. It's doing great. And you're thinking to yourself, I'm not making any money. Have you ever had a spouse or a significant other ask you one of these questions? So what do you do with your Mary Kay money? Where does it go? What do you do with it? Or, I thought we were going to use your Mary Kay money for, right? Or, are you even making enough to warrant the time that you spend away from our family? So I certainly hope that as I walked through those questions that they all did not resonate with you. But I can assure you of one thing. There was a season in my life when I would have been able to say yes to every single one of those questions. And so what I have discovered is for a long time I thought, I'll just make more money. I'll just make more money. I'll just sell more. I'll just make more money. That'll close in what's happening here. I'll just make more money. And I would make more money, and I would still need to make more money, right? So I'll just make more money. Like, I still need to make more money. I'll just make more money. There's two things you need to know. Number one is that for 29 years, this has been my sole source of income. As long as I've been in Mary Kay, I've never held another job, okay? But what you also need to know is that until about 13 years ago, when I was forced to live on my own, that I did not manage my Mary Kay money well at all. And actually, I would go so far as to say that I completely allowed other people in my life to manage my money. I allowed them to decide what investments we were going to make. I allowed them to decide what purchases we were going to make. And I just went on blind faith. And my answer was, I'll just make more money. And 13 years ago, I will never forget the night. How many of you have ever had a moment in your life when literally you can look back at that moment and you know from that moment forward your life will never be the same? Will never be the same. It is that moment when it literally changes on a dime and it will never be the same. I will never forget it. It was March 1st of 2002. And I discovered that my marriage and my life was not at all what I thought it was. And he was not happy and he did not want to continue in the marriage. And I will never forget, it took me about a week of just literally reeling from that. And one night I couldn't sleep and I went down and I sat down and I couldn't even really tell you how much money I made. I didn't really know where it was going. I didn't really know if I didn't have him in my life, what I would be responsible for, what would it look like to live on my own, what would I do? And the moment I realized that financially I would be just fine, I could do it. I would have to make some changes, I would have to take some personal responsibility, but I would be just fine, was the most liberating day of my life. And since that day, I have had some very liberating financial experiences. But that was the first one. The first one when I thought, I'm okay. And whether it's him or any other person in my life, I will always be the mashed potatoes. And they can be the gravy if they want to, but I've eaten plenty of mashed potatoes without gravy, right? And so I needed to know I was okay. Now, it took us an entire year to dissolve the marriage. But during that year, I got smart with what I was doing. And I started being accountable to myself for what I was spending and what I was doing. During that year, I began to pay down a considerable amount of credit card debt. But when I left our home,
Actually, we did.
Yeah, actually we did. We did. Emily came and moved me out. I made the decision financially to leave our home. I took with me still a considerable amount of credit card debt. I moved in with our little boy to a 1,300 square foot rental. And I will never forget this day because I had chosen to let him make all of the investments because I had chosen not to invest in my own retirement plan, and we had made a conscious choice to invest in his. When I left with nothing. I left with $1,100 in my checking account. And the only reason I know that is because the day I wrote my $350 deposit to move into my rental, I remember what the balance was in my bank account. And I remember thinking to myself, there is now officially no one to call, right? So if you're sitting here tonight and thinking, yeah, well, she drives a pink Cadillac and she makes a lot of money, so it's easy for her to tell me how to manage money. I want to tell you that you can change any set of circumstances. 1 year later, I purchased that home that I was renting all by myself. That was another liberating day. 13 years later, I